Kundavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundavihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Sadanandana Vraja Janarandana Yasodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yamuna Tera Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundavihari Jaya Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Bhakta-vrinda Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajagasaryastudarasada Sri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhakti-vedanta Swami Śrīla-Prabhupada ki Jai ISKCON 100 Acharya Śrīla-Prabhupada ki Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajagasaryastudarasada Sri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhakti-siddhanta Sarvata Guru Maharaj Śrīla-Prabhupada ki Jaya Nanda Gadi Vaishnava Vrinda ki जय नमाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा देवी जमुना देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर ललिता विशाखा देवी की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Naran Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashta Prayesu Avadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktire Bhavati Naishtike Mukhaṁ Karti Vācālaṁ Pangulangayate Girim Yatripātamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dīnataranam Sri Paramānanda Madhavam. So today we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 65. Advaya-jñāna tattva-vastu kṛṣṇera sva-rūpa. Brahma, ātmā, Bhagavān, tīna tāṅra-rūpa. advaya-jñāna tattva-vastu kṛṣṇera sva-rūpa. Brahma, ātmā, Bhagavān, tīna tāṅra-rūpa. advaya-jñāna tattva-vastu kṛṣṇera sva-rūpa Brahma-ātmā Bhagavān tīnātāra-rūpa Mataji. Advaya-jñāna, knowledge without duality. Tattva-vastu, the absolute truth. Kṛṣṇera, of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Sva-rūpa, own nature. Brahma, Brahman. ātmā, Paramātmā. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tīna, three. Tāṅra, of Him. Rūpa, forms. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Translation. Lord Kṛṣṇa Himself is the one undivided absolute truth, the ultimate reality. He manifests Himself in three features as Brahman, Paramātmā and Bhagavān. Please repeat. Lord Kṛṣṇa Himself is the one undivided absolute truth, the ultimate reality. He manifests Himself in three features as Brahman, Paramātmā and Bhagavān. Purport. In the verse from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam cited above, 1 to 11, the principal word Bhagavan indicates the personality of Godhead, and Brahman and Paramātmā are concomitants deduced from the absolute personality, as a government and its ministers are deductions from the Supreme Executive Head. In other words, the principal truth is exhibited in three different phases. The absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa, Bhagavan, is also known as Brahman and Paramātmā. Although all these features are identical. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rūpa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada-kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Nitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Visakha Sa He Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Mahavadannaya Kṛṣṇa Prema Pradayate Kṛṣṇāya Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Se Namah Jai Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yes. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in this verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he is explaining the Supreme Absolute Truth in his three features. As it has been stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and also quoted here in the previous verse, 63, Vadanti tattva-vastu tattvam yad jnana advaya brahmeti paramātmeti Bhagavan iti sabdyate. So this verse from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is now being explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the subsequent verses. So here, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is telling that advaya-jñāna tattva-vastu kṛṣṇera svarūpa. So the ultimate reality of Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is undivided absolute truth, he is understood in his three features: Brahma, ātmā and Bhagavān. So we see in the material world, people have a different understanding about the Supreme Absolute Truth. Some people have no understanding at all. And those who have some understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, some people, they think the Supreme Absolute Truth is Brahman. Some people think as Paramātmā, and some people think as Bhagavan. So, according to one's realization, the Supreme Absolute Truth is being realized differently, though he is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada elsewhere gives that example of a mountain. That when someone sees a mountain from a distant place, so he can see that mountain as a greenish block, big greenish block, but he cannot say exactly what that mountain is, because he is watching the mountain from a great distance. So only that much he can see. So this Brahma realization is compared to this, that those who think the Supreme Absolute Truth is Brahman, they see the effulgence of the Supreme Absolute Truth from a great distance. Like also we see at night time, if a train is coming, we don't see the train, we see the light from a great distance. So in the same way, these people, those who have this Brahman realization, they see the Supreme Absolute Truth as something effulgent, because they see the Supreme Lord from a great distance. And this effulgence which is coming out from the body of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and that is covering the bodily feature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So they only see this light, the effulgence, and they call it Brahman. And they want to merge with that Brahman effulgence. Also it has been stated in Ishopanishad that Hiranmayena patrena satyasa pihitam mukham. The Lord who is Supreme Absolute Truth, his face is covered by Hiranmaya Patra, like an effulgent dish or pot. It is covered by that. So, tattam pusan apavrunu satya dharmaya drishte. That's why the devotee prays to the Lord, that my dear Lord, please remove your effulgence, which is covering your bodily features, your face, so I can see your beautiful face. So that means this bodily effulgence which is coming out from the body of the Supreme Absolute Truth is actually covering the personal feature of the Lord. That's why the Mayavadis or impersonalists, they cannot see the bodily feature of the Lord. They can only see the effulgence of the Lord. That's why they say that the Lord has no form. He is only effulgence. So they only see the effulgence. That's why they say the Lord is Supreme Absolute Truth is only effulgence. No form. So this is like seeing the mountain from a great distance. So anyone who sees the mountain from a great distance, he has no idea about the mountain or the different features of mountain. He can only see that greenish black. Same way, those who are far away from the Supreme Lord, they only see the effulgence of the Lord from a great distance. And they conclude that the Lord has no form, He is only effulgence. And they want to merge with that effulgence. So this is the philosophy of the Mayavadis. They want to merge in that effulgence and become one. And because they are called Mayavadis, they think that effulgent Supreme Absolute Truth is there, and the spirit soul, which is part and parcel of that Supreme Effulgence, is being separated from the Supreme Absolute Truth because of the Maya or illusory energy. And when the illusory energy will be removed, and then this effulgent soul will merge into the Supreme Effulgence. That is their philosophy. And of course, that was preached by Shankaracharya, who actually came to this material world to drive away Buddhist philosophy. So Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, he was actually incarnation of Lord Shiva. And he came for a specific purpose as Adi Shankaracharya, because the Buddhists, that time they were not following the Vedas. And their philosophy was, there is no God, Vedas are not to be followed, and everything is void. They are Sunyavadis. The Buddhists are Sunyavadis. Voidism. They preached voidism. Because Lord Buddha, when he saw that people were killing animals in the sacrifice, taking the authority of the Vedas, and Lord Buddha came to prevent these animal sacrifices. And to stop that, because people are referring to Vedas, then Lord Buddha said, there is no Veda. No Veda, no Supreme Law. Ahimsa parama dharma. Non-violence is the supreme dharma. So Lord Buddha preached like this. That's why all the Buddhists, they became atheists. They did not believe in Vedas, they did not believe in the Supreme Lord, they became atheists. But that was the time when Lord Buddha came, so that was necessary for that time to preach this Sunyavad Vaidism, discarding the Vedas and the Supreme Lord, to stop animal slaughter. But when the animal slaughter stopped, people became Buddhists, But that was not the real philosophy. People are going away from the Supreme Lord. That's how the Supreme Lord sent Lord Shiva as Adi Shankaracharya to bring people back to Vedic religion. That's why when Shankaracharya came, though he was a great devotee of the Lord, Lord Shiva is a great devotee of this Supreme Lord, and he knows what is the truth, but because of the order of the Supreme Lord, he came down and he preached this Mayavad philosophy. And Lord Shiva tells Parvati that Mayavadam asat shastram prachannam bauddha uchyate. So Lord Shiva told Parvati that the philosophy, this Mayavad philosophy which I am preaching, this is actually Buddhism in disguise. Prachanna bauddham uchyate. Mayeva vihitam devi kalu brahman rupina. My dear Devi, I will preach, or I am preaching this Vaidism, which is Buddhism, in form of a Brahmin. So Shankaracharya came, he took birth in a Brahmin family, took sannyas, and to drive away this Buddhism, he preached this Mayavad philosophy or impersonalism. Why did he preach impersonalism? Because the Buddhists were not believing in the Supreme Lord at all. That's why Shankaracharya said, no, there is Supreme Lord, but he has no power. This is another kind of, similar to Buddhism. Lord has no power. But he said, he established that there is Supreme Lord, but he has no power. So in this way, he brought back these Buddhists into Vedic religion, and he established Vedas. But that was also not the right philosophy. This impersonalism was not the right philosophy. Then the Lord sent all these Vaishnavacharyas to establish this personal philosophy of the Supreme Lord. That the Supreme Lord is a person, he has a power. That's why all the Vaishnavacharyas they came. So this impersonalists, because Shankaracharya was so powerful, he drove away Buddhism from all of India. That's why people became impersonalists. Instead of becoming Buddhists, they became impersonalists. And this impersonalism is still continuing. And Srila Prabhupada came to drive away this impersonalism. So, this is there, that this Brahma realization is actually not the proper realization of the Supreme Lord, but still it is some sort of realization like seeing the mountain from a great distance. So the impersonalists, they are seeing the Supreme Lord, but they are seeing his effulgence only, not the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. That means their realization is not perfect. The impersonal realization or Brahma realization is not perfect. But this is some sort of realization of the Supreme Lord. Then the next stage of realization is Paramātmā. Paramātmā realization. So, if someone goes to see that mountain, who was seeing from a great distance, he could not figure it out what it is, only he saw the greenish black. But if he'll go near to the mountain, then he will have some idea about the mountain. From a distance, at least he can see on the top of the mountain some trees are there or some stone, big stones are there. At least he has some idea about the mountain, but not full idea. So those who have Paramatma realization, so mostly the yogis, they have Paramatma realization, and the Jnanis have this Brahma realization. Those who are cultivating knowledge of the absolute truth. So they can go up to this Brahma realization. But the yogis, those who are meditating on the Paramatma form of the Lord within their hearts. And this Paramatma feature is a localized feature. The Supreme Lord enters into every living entity's heart as Paramatma. And not only within the living entities, the Supreme Lord also enters into atoms. Andantarastha paramānu chayantarastha. So the Supreme Lord enters into atoms. So the Supreme Lord is everywhere present. When Hiranyakasipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, you are telling always the Supreme Lord, where is your Supreme Lord? And Prahlad Maharaj answered that my Supreme Lord is everywhere. He is everywhere in the hearts of every living entity. Even in atoms, he is also there. Then Hiranyakasipu did not believe this. So then he asked Prahlad Maharaj, if your Supreme Lord is present everywhere, within everything, even in atoms, is your Supreme Lord present in this pillar of this assembly hall? Then Prahlad Maharaj said, yes. When he is present everywhere, he is also present in the pillar. And Hiranyakasipu wanted to prove that Prahlad Maharaj's statements were false. That's why he broke the pillar with his fist. And by breaking the pillar, he wanted to show to the whole world that Prahlad's Supreme Lord is not present in this pillar. But to the surprise of Hiranyakasipu, the Supreme Lord appeared from the pillar of the assembly hall and killed Hiranyakasipu. So this Paramatma is present everywhere. The Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. He is present in every living entity's heart and in everything, in every atom. And this Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, he is Paramatma of every universe. So when he enters into the universe, then the creation takes place. So the Supreme Lord, he is present everywhere as Paramatma. And the yogis, they meditate on the Supreme Lord as Paramatma. But that is also not the full realization of the Supreme Lord. Like seeing the mountain from a, not very far, but nearby, seeing the mountain. But one cannot see all the features of the mountain even if from a little distance. So that means the Paramatma realization is not the full realization of the Supreme Absolute Truth. And then, if someone goes to the mountain itself, on the top of the mountain. One goes to the top of the mountain, stands on the mountain and sees everything. So he can see which tree is there, where the fountain is coming down, where is the stone, which animals are there. He can see everything when one goes to the mountain itself. Then he can have a clear idea about the mountain. So his realization is complete. So in the same way, the devotees of the Lord, they see the Supreme Absolute Truth as Bhagavan. Bhagavan means full of 6 opulences. And the devotees, they see the beautiful form of Kṛṣṇa. The impersonalists, they say the Lord has no form because they cannot see the beauty of the Supreme Lord. But the devotees, they see the beautiful form of the Lord, and they also see the opulence of the Lord. The Lord has 6 opulences. That's why it's called Bhagavan. Bhaga means opulences. And anyone who possesses those opulences is called Bhagavan. And what are those opulences? The Lord is most beautiful. And he is also called Asamardha. Asamardha means no one can equal to the Supreme Lord. Or no one can become greater than the Supreme Lord in all these 6 opulences. No one can become equal or greater. That's why the Lord is called Bhagavan. Not that nowadays anyone can announce overnight that he is Bhagavan and foolish people will believe on them that he is Bhagavan. If someone is Bhagavan, he must have these 6 opulences. That he must be most beautiful person. So beauty is one of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. Then the Lord must be wealthiest person. All wealth should be there because he is the Lakshmipati. No one can equal to the Supreme Lord in wealth. Actually, everyone is begging to the Supreme Lord, begging to Lakshmi Devi for wealth in the material world. So no one can become equal to the Supreme Lord. And no one can become famous as the Supreme Lord. We see some famous people in the material world. They become famous for some time, then people forget them. Then someone else becomes more famous than him. But the Supreme Lord is famous all the time. Since the beginning of the creation, he is always famous. And his fame is glorified in the scriptures from the beginning of this material world, and it will go on continuing. So no one can become more famous than the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord has all strength. No one can become stronger than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see it in the case of Hiranyakashipu. He was such a strong person, strongest. And he had got the benediction that no one would be able to kill him. He had closed all the doors of death. And he was thinking he was immortal. But the Supreme Lord, fulfilling the benediction of Lord Brahma, He killed Hiranyakashipu. So no one can become equal in strength with the Supreme Lord. And then the Supreme Lord is all knowledgeable. In the material world we see people become very proud of their knowledge. They read the scriptures and then they think that now we have become very knowledgeable. But who is giving those scriptures? The Supreme Lord is giving the scriptural knowledge. The knowledge is actually coming from the Supreme Lord. The Vedas, the Puranas, Upanishads, everything is coming from the Supreme Lord. So, He is the source of all knowledge. No one can become equal or surpassing in knowledge. And then renunciation. The Supreme Lord is also topmost renunciant. We see in the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Kṛṣṇa himself. No one can equal to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in renunciation. He gave up his family life at the age of 24 when he was young, giving up his beautiful wife and mother, he took sannyas. And he was so strictly following the sannyas ashram. No one would be able to do that. Nowadays, even if you see so many sannyasis, no one would be able to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he was following sannyasas. So he set the supreme standard of sannyasas. And we also see in case of Lord Kṛṣṇa, though he was in the midst of so many gopis, in the middle of the night, but he gave them up. He disappeared from the restaurants. He was not attached to them. He was only fulfilling their desires. But Kṛṣṇa was not attached. He gave up everything. So he is the most renunciant person. No one can be equal to him in renunciation. So because Kṛṣṇa has all these 6 opulences, that's why he is called Bhagavan. So when we understand that to become Bhagavan, what is the qualification? That one must have these 6 opulences. Then only one can become Bhagavan. So Kṛṣṇa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had all these opulences. That's why they were called Bhagavan. Not that some devotees are calling them Bhagavan. Like some people, they are calling someone as Bhagavan in the material world. So we must know what Bhagavan means and whether those qualities are there with the person whom we are calling Bhagavan. So Kṛṣṇa has all these opulences. And anyone who is realizing this, then he can have Bhagavan realization. Like going to the mountain and seeing the mountain. Standing on the top of the mountain, you can have full realization of the mountain. So in the same way, the devotees, they have this realization of the Supreme Lord in his personal feature. Though no one can have full realization of the Supreme Lord. That is not possible because Lord Kṛṣṇa is unlimited. But we can have some personal realization. The devotees can have some personal realization of the Supreme Lord. That's why their realization, the devotee's realization is perfect. Perfect realization. So, though others, those who have Brahman realization, Paramātmā realization, their realization is not untrue, but it is not complete. They have partial realization of the Supreme Lord, no complete realization. But the devotees have complete realization of the Supreme Lord. So the same Supreme Lord who is Kṛṣṇa Himself has appeared now as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Lord Kṛṣṇa. Sometimes people say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incarnation of Kṛṣṇa. No. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not an incarnation of Kṛṣṇa. He is Kṛṣṇa Himself. No difference between Kṛṣṇa and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the devotees have this Bhagavan realization. That's why devotees' realization is superior to Brahman and Paramātmā realization. So we'll stop here. If anyone has comments, questions. I could not get your point. Everyone is God. People say, some people say that everyone is God. Okay? And then what is the next one? Yeah. Because they think that the Lord is present in everyone's heart. That's why they think that everyone is God. But though the Lord is present in everyone's heart as a Paramātmā, but still He is distinct from the body. Like the soul. The soul is also present in the body. The soul is also present in the body. And Paramātmā also is present with the soul in the body. But the soul, the example is given, like in a tree, two birds are sitting. One bird is eating the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is just watching. So the soul, surrounded by subtle body and then the gross body, is actually eating the fruits of its karma in this material world. And this Paramātmā, who is sitting within the heart, he is just watching what this soul is doing through the body. And he is actually the witness of our activities. The Supreme Lord is not attached to the body. He is just watching and he is witnessing the activities of the soul engaged within the body. So we cannot say that because the Supreme Paramātmā is present in everyone's body, then everyone becomes God. Because Paramātmā is not attached to the activity of the body. So this is a wrong philosophy. Those who are telling that everyone is God, this is a wrong philosophy. They have no proper understanding. Both are looking same. Brahman means actually the spirit soul. When they say Brahma realization, they are actually meaning that I am the same Brahma, or the part and parcel of the Supreme Brahma. Brahma, Param Brahma. So, this Brahma means the soul, which is part and parcel of the Param Brahma. And they think, the Mayavadis or impersonalists, they think this soul, spirit soul, because it is part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman, then when this Maya's covering will be taken away, then the spirit soul will merge into the Supreme Soul or Param Brahma and become one. That is their philosophy. But when we say Paramātmā, that means that same Param Brahma or Paramātmā, the Supreme Lord. That is, Paramātmā is Supreme Lord's feature. Brahman is the part of that Supreme Brahma. Did you get the point? No. The Lord exists everywhere as Brahman. You are telling this thing. Okay. But this Brahman is a separated part and parcel. The spirit soul, which is also Brahman. So it is a separated part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman. Separated part. That means this individuality of the spirit soul will always remain. That's why Lord Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad-Gita, Mamivangsa jiva, loke jiva bhuta sanatana. It is an eternal part and parcel. If it will merge with the Supreme Brahman, then how it can become eternal part and parcel? It will maintain its individuality all the time. Okay? Harish. Harish.
Would you please throw some light on the strength and wealth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Strength and wealth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Strength and wealth.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually did not exhibit the powers of God all the time, because he came as a devotee. And his mission was to propagate devotion to the Supreme Lord. That's why he came as a devotee to preach devotional service. Though he was the Supreme Lord himself, But he generally acted like a devotee to preach devotional service. But sometimes he showed his opulences to his intimate devotees as the Supreme Lord. Like when he was speaking with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was teaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thinking him as an ordinary sannyasi and explaining him Vedanta. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he countered the arguments of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and gave the real meaning of Vedanta, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was completely awestruck. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his six-armed form, the form of the Supreme Lord. He showed his opulence. First he showed his 400 form, then another 200. 600 form he showed. So, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not an ordinary sannyasi. He was the Supreme Lord Himself. Then he surrendered, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And hearing from him, Maharaj Prataprudra also surrendered. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his opulences to so many devotees also in Navadvip and so many other places also. Even while speaking to the Mayavadis of Banaras, Prakāśānanda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because they believe in effulgence of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his effulgence to Prakāśānanda, all the sannyasis sitting there. So in that way, he motivated them. And as far as strength is concerned, we know that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, some Buddhist sannyasis, they came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they brought some eatables which was not vegetarian. And they offered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as prasad. They said, "Oh, this is Lord's prasad, you take it." So at that time, one big bird came from nowhere and just hit the plate, and the plate fell on the leader of that group, Buddhist group. And his head was cut and he fell down senseless. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not do anything, but he showed his power. So the Lord can do anything whenever he wants. Is it okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll stop here. Oh, you have a question? We'll go. Okay, no time more. Already we are 10 minutes. I surpassed the real timing. So I have to follow our President's order. Hare Krishna.